Hi everyone, welcome to Lights, Camera, Action. I'm Allison Howard and your host for tonight. Tonight is a special edition of Lights, Camera, Action. Since we're not interviewing actors this time, we're interviewing filmmakers. So first we have Katherine DuBois, Jeff Mann, and Jay Kim. Thank you so much for participating in this special edition. I'm so excited to interview you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
So first, to start off, how did each of you get into filmmaking? How did you first jump in?
Yeah, I started out as an actor in the DC area. I did a lot of theater and a lot of Shakespeare. Then I moved into working in independent film with these guys. Then I moved to Los Angeles and continued to work in film as an actor, as a writer, and also behind the camera.
Very cool. So did you start theater at an early age? Or
I did, very little. Adventure theater, BAPA, Imagination Stage, all those theater camps. That was where I spent my summers.
So you started to transition into film about when?
During college, because I went to Ithaca in New York, and they have a great media production program outside of the theater program, and we would sometimes merge and explore those areas. And then when I got back, after school, I think Jay was actually the very first person to pick me up, and we started working together a little bit. And that was really my first introduction to a more professional film environment.
Oh, wow, that's so cool. That's awesome. It's great how the three of you have worked together. That's going to make this a nice conversation. Jeff, how about you? How did you get into film? And
I wanted to be a movie critic at first, and it seemed like a more reasonable career goal at the time.
You wanted to be the next Ebert?
I did. Actually, Ebert was like one of my heroes. So like I read all his work and I thought like, man, this is what I want to do. And then I actually did it and hated it.
Really?
And it got to a point like I was like the head movie critic at my college paper, and like I would go to like press screenings and stuff. But like after a while, it was kind of like who really cares what I have to say about movies? Like, is anyone really going to change their mind like to go see a movie on like a particular night because of like something I wrote? Like,
right.
You know, I could like rant and rave about Inside Llewyn Davis and how great it is, but it's not going to change the fact that someone's going to go see Medea's Christmas. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I just thought it would, after I graduated, I took a class at Montgomery College, like a filmmaking class, and it just seemed like it was more courageous, I guess, to put my own work out there and let other people judge it, as opposed to being this guy nitpicking other people's hard work.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's really cool. So you didn't major in film at all? What
No,
did you major in?
I was a journalism major.
Okay, that makes sense with the movie critic.
Yeah, which is what Ebert did, so.
Right. Oh.
Yeah.
So you were trying to follow in his footsteps.
I was trying to follow in his footsteps.
So now, if only he were still around so that he could critique your work.
I actually sent him an email in high school asking him like how to become a movie critic and stuff like that, and he wrote back to me, which is cool. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have that email like printed and framed?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I looked for it like a couple years ago, and I think it's so old that like Hotmail or whatever like deleted it. But it was pretty like, it was like one sentence. It was like, and try to get yourself invited to critic screenings. Good luck.
Wow.
And then actually in college, I tried to like send him my reviews, and he never wrote back to me. And then I saw under his like mailbag, like, don't send me this. He added one that was like, don't send me your movie reviews for me to look at. So.
So you were like the catalyst for that.
I was. Don't send Ebert your movie reviews.
Well, now we all know.
Yeah.
How about you, Jay? How did you get started in film?
Like growing up as a kid, I've always liked like movies and like TV shows and stuff. Like I grew up like watching Aliens and like Terminator 2 when I was like 7, 8 years old. So like I always knew like, you know, I was interested in that kind of stuff, but like I never thought I could actually work in it until like this guy like kind of gave me an opportunity to like just like work on like random stuff. I think the first thing I ever worked on was a t-shirt like company wanted to make this video for like their launch, and I helped them out. Like I think I held the boom mic. I did like a horrible job, but ever since then, like, you know, I fell in love with it.
Wow. So that was your very first job, was working with Jeff?
Yeah. It was just like on the weekends. Like I had like a full-time job, like doing other stuff, and like he was like, "Yeah, you want to help me out?" And I was like, "Really? Like, I can actually do this?" And he was like, "Yeah." And then just kind of fell into it. And then I was really lucky to like get an internship and then like some jobs working in production around here, because I don't think there's that many positions in this area. And I've just learned from like people along the way, and yeah, just been really lucky.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So Jay remembers his first job. Do either of you two remember your first job? Within film, I guess? Like either as an actor or as working in production?
Well, my first film job was
it the T-shirt thing that he was just
no,
talking about?
no, it was. Do you want to describe it, Jay?
Sure.
I feel like you'd be better at it.
Like when I was starting out, I was like, okay, so this is a weird story that kind of goes in a circle. So Jeff right now is an assistant to this filmmaker named Jay DuBois, and he made like a series of, or a few shorts that got into Sundance, and he made a feature film called The Puffy Chair, which was like, which is still like one of my favorite movies. And like the reason I liked this filmmaker a lot, besides his work, was that like he would give like interviews, like to different like magazines or like online stuff, and I really appreciated, like, he would always try to give like advice to like fledgling filmmakers, and his advice was like, just go make movies. Even if they're bad, just go make them, because you'll learn, and that's the only way you'll get better.
Right.
So I think I met Katie because like I was like, all right, how am I gonna find like people to make a movie? Because this is kind of nuts. Like at the time I was like 25 or 26 years old, and I was like, I've never done anything before, and like, who's gonna work with me? So I think I placed an ad on like Craigslist or something, and I was like, oh my God, there's so many people responding. I was like, what do I do? And I just saw like, her headshot, and I was like, oh, she seems cool, and like, her resume was like impressive. She had like done all this other like acting and stuff, and so like I called her up, and like we met. I can't remember where we met the first time.
We met at like Chipotle in like
oh my God,
in
you're
like
right.
Rockville or
Yeah.
something. It was a weird experience for me too, because
You're right.
previous to this, all of my jobs have been because I've auditioned, and then they've reviewed my material, and we've had a discussion, and Jay just calls me up and is like, hey. And I'm like, hello, who is this? And he's like, kind of explains himself a little bit. And then we met for lunch, and then I was like, well, I'd love to audition for you. I heard about the project. I'd love to audition for you. And he was like, no, just do it. Okay. It was just a very abnormal audition experience. And since then, I definitely have not been back to Craigslist to look for my opportunities.
I was about to say.
But it happened to work out really well in this one very first particular instance.
Yeah, and I was really lucky because like the first thing that I did was like, it was really bad, but she was so good about it. Like, she was patient with me, and like, just worked with me. And then like she did like a couple more like short films with me, which is pretty amazing. I was like, really? You want to do more stuff with me?
I like to work with the same people over and over again.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you build a rapport, know he's trustworthy, it's always nice to work with people consistently. Mm-hmm. So I completely agree. But the Craigslist thing, I don't know. I would.
Yeah.
No,
unless
I
they
don't
buy
do
you a
that
burrito
anymore.
bowl, then
Right.
you shouldn't trust them.
Yeah.
How about you, Jeff? Do you remember your first job, your first gig?
Yeah, actually, that class I took at Montgomery College,
Yeah.
my teacher, he became executive producer of a TV show on this local network, like cable network that was coming out called Retirement Living Television.
Okay.
And so he hired me as like a full-time PA. So I worked there for about a year before I got laid off.
Oh, wow.
Good story.
Yeah.
So I know, since each of you have worked in, it seems like, a variety of different projects, is there any job within production that you prefer, whether it's being a producer, director, gaffer, working the camera, being in post and being the editor? Is there any, or an actor, is there anything that you prefer, any particular job you would prefer to do 24/7?
Oh.
You go first.
I mean, above anything else, I love to act. But in LA, and I think this is true of any market at this time, if you want to be a successful actor, the best way to get ahead is to wear all the different hats that you can. And one of the things that I really have discovered that I absolutely love is to write. I have a writing partner in Los Angeles, which I never thought I would enjoy writing with someone, but it's actually incredibly helpful and inspiring to have someone at your side writing. And a lot of those projects go on, and we put together teams. So I think that's like a writing, producing sort of equation, is you write something you're passionate about, and then you start building your team around it. And that's where I like to be, because it gives me the most creative control.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So with this writing partner, I know this sounds like a really probably silly question, but so you said they sit next to you and you have one person typing, or do you just send like Google Docs between the two of you? Or?
Yeah, we do use Google Docs.
Okay.
Because we can actually edit at the same time.
Right.
So we'll sort of just be spitballing this and that, and a lot of the times I blob out ideas, a lot of the times she actually articulates them.
Okay.
And then when we write so that's more for treatment and outline.
Right.
Then for dialogue, what we do is we switch off scenes.
Okay.
I'll say, you write this little section, I'll write this little section, we'll come back, we'll make sure they fit together, we'll tweak, and then we'll move on. But it can be very fast writing like that.
Right.
So that's,
I can imagine that it's also very involved. Like you have to really stay on your toes. Has there ever been anything where something like particularly amazing has happened? Like you read something and you didn't necessarily think that it was going to go in that particular direction. All of a sudden, just based on what your partner wrote, all of a sudden you just have like a twist in the plot that you may not have seen, or there.
Yeah, that does happen. Though I'll bring up a different example of writing, sort of producing, is I'm also a member of a comedy group called The Board.
Yes.
And that is much more on its toes. You know, when I write with my writing partner, it's a little bit more deliberate.
Okay.
And
it's more
planned out. Okay. Though there are wonderful surprises that happen all the time. But when I'm working with The Board, it's just a group of 5 people, and we each play every role that there is. And a lot of the stuff, because it's sketch comedy, a lot of the stuff is very sporadic. So I'll just throw, someone will just come up with a concept, like, what if we took all of these random props that we have and we made some sort of, ridiculous dialogue with them. Oh, well, let's wear all the hats or whatever.
Right.
Who knows what it is? That wasn't a reference at all to a single sketch that we did, but it could be. Maybe it will be now. But that's when you really feel like you're on your toes, I think, is when you're in a more improv setting.
Yes.
And Jay can speak a lot to improv. A lot of the work that we've done together has been improv writing, dialogue based.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Well, I was gonna say, like, as far as like jobs is concerned, like, I think I can speak for the both of us when I say, like, neither of us went to film school, and I think, like, we just learned by doing everything. Like, I don't like, even when I was making movies, I could probably go to a movie and like look at the credits, and I had no idea like what half of those people like did or what their title is like.
Right.
Like, I didn't even know what a producer did for a while. Like, we literally did everything on our own.
Yeah.
And then like after a while, it's like, oh yeah, it's a lot easier if I get someone else to like decorate like the background, so I can like work with these guys to get a better performance or something like that. So yeah, so we've done, like, that's pretty much how we learned how to make movies and stuff like that.
Of course. It kind of draws on what Katie said on how you have to wear all the hats.
Yeah.
And to understand what you're doing, and then you're able to divvy out.
Yeah. I mean, that's great advice for any like actor too. I feel like for filmmakers, like, you're constantly making your own thing so you can like showcase what you do. And I think for actors too, like, instead of like going to auditions and waiting for someone to give you an opportunity, like what she's doing is great. You're like creating your own opportunity to show like what you can do to like, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So is there any particular job that you prefer to have, if you could have that all the time?
let's see. I mean, I like to write and direct pretty much. Yeah. So, and I like shooting too, but like, you know, I'm trying to delegate more of the duties to like other people as I'm making more things.
Right.
Do you like editing?
Do I like? Oh yeah.
Do you like editing or no?
Oh man, I used to hate editing, but that's because I wasn't that good at it, and I used to like make him edit all my stuff for me, and he probably like wanted to kill me like looking through my footage. But as I've gotten better at it, I like it more and more, but it's still like really hard. Yeah, it's like
it's very challenging editing, but you have so much control over the final product.
Yes.
That I can imagine being an editor and not having been the director or writer, that you have to work fairly closely. Yeah. With one another, just so that you understand that what you were trying to get across is the same thing that's in the finished product. Because depending on how you time things or which shots you pick, can change the perspective completely.
Yeah, and just imagine how crazy that conversation gets when you're the same person.
Yeah, I can imagine. Jay, how about you?
Is there like a favorite position?
Yeah, favorite position.
For me, like I kind of like look at production work for, at least for my specific situation, like into like two like categories. Like one is like I'm lucky enough to like have like a job. I work for an ad agency making commercials. So it's like one is like kind of like the stuff that I do to like make a living. And it's like very like technical based, like deadline oriented and stuff. And like I would say that type of work is probably the work that's taught me the most as far as like technical stuff. And like, you know, if I'm gonna put like a commercial on TV, like I can't just shoot it like I'm doing like an independent short film that like I hope is gonna get like in like a film festival or something.
Right.
You know, it's totally different. But you know, I think they're kind of related. I feel like I've learned things from both sides to like help me get better at both. But on like my job, my day job side, like I kind of don't have a choice. Usually, I have to wear a lot of hats. So like I'll usually have to like shoot and edit a lot of stuff. Sometimes like if the project is like bigger, I'll have to work with like a small crew, or like I think once in a while, like I'll have to like edit footage that I haven't shot, which is one thing like I'm not crazy about.
Yeah,
like,
is that challenging?
Yeah, I'm so used to shooting my own footage. So like while I'm shooting, like you know, if you edit a lot, you kind of know like what you need to get, and like how much of it you need to get. So yeah, editing other people's footage is tough. Yeah.
Have you edited some of Jeff's? You said that you haven't.
Yeah,
okay.
I've edited some of his stuff, but like ever since he moved to LA, like what has it been, like 3 years? Like I may have edited one thing, and he like his editing skills have like just gone through the roof. Like his stuff is really good. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, he edited a short film I shot over the summer. It's not his fault. It's not the editing's fault, but the movie did not come out good.
Oh.
No,
Do you mind telling us about it?
Yeah, it was a movie I shot on my iPhone with my friend, and it was something I wanted to do with him. I had my good friend out there. He was moving back to Atlanta, and I wanted to make something with him before we left. And literally, I was like, why don't we just shoot something on my phone, just me and you, and just see how it turns out. And so I was like the lead actor in it. And it's just literally about a guy who decides to skip work one day, and he like goes to the mall and like goes to movies and stuff like that. And he like finds out at the end like all these things he did not make him happy, and he has like a nervous breakdown in his car and like cries.
Oh my gosh, so tell me, have you ever acted before? How did you delve into such, deep and meaningful material? My goodness.
I'm a pretty deep guy.
You're a deep guy?
Allison, yeah. No, actually, the first time I ever acted was in Jay's movie, and I did not want to, like, I'm pretty sure he hated me during that time we made that movie, but, like, he insisted that I acted in it, and it was, like, it's actually a really good short, but he kind of crafted the characters so that it's similar to, like, who we are as people.
Okay.
And, like, I didn't like some of the like directions that my character was going, because it kind of hit a little close. So I wasn't really like, I wasn't in a place in my life to like accept some of those things. So I was probably a maniac to work with. And then I remember like when he first showed me the movie, I was like, dude, I don't like this. This is not good.
Aww.
And he left my house without saying a word to me. And then like,
yeah, we have a lot of history together.
yeah.
But you know, it's made us closer in the long run.
Yeah,
we can laugh about
definitely.
it now.
We're in a
Kind
better
of.
place now.
We're in a better place.
Also, one of the things that I've noticed, you know, in working with these guys is the level of sort of honesty and openness about where you're at that
Right.
sort of seems to happen,
Yeah.
sort of be cultivated with this little team. And there are actually so many people that I've worked with where that's not the standard. It's a professionalism, but it's sort of like a clean-cut, pleasant professionalism that doesn't really take into account sort of people's journeys or like particular brand of honesty on that day. And I think these guys do that. So if it seems like there's some like friction or like something there, it's like there is, because that's kind of where this material kind of grows out of.
Yeah.
From coming into that, that's what I think I've discovered.
The more friction, the better, because it turns into a movie later on. Right.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a movie coming from this conversation right now.
We're all gonna go to LA and make a movie
For
right now,
real.
tomorrow.
Right now, tomorrow. We're flying there. Sorry,
Well,
Jay.
it's cool for me because
He's
like, these two have like gone to LA and like, you know, they're doing like really cool stuff. I'm just stuck in Gaithersburg, Maryland. You know, no.
Yeah.
You
I'm
could
just
fly
kidding.
to the West Coast. I'm sure Emily would go with you.
No.
You can come too. You're
Sure,
an
okay.
actress.
That
Yeah.
sounds good. Speaking of LA, so the two of you have moved out there and are now working in that market, but you've also worked
Yeah.
in other markets. How have you noticed, what are some similarities and differences, I guess, between the DC market and Los Angeles, whether it's within production jobs or within acting jobs? If just talking about like the concentration of actors and different, the amount of film work that's there versus like independent work, commercial work, any type of sketch comedies, groups, just the differences and similarities.
I think that there's so many people in LA working on film and video that you can probably have every kind of experience.
Right.
The stuff that I've been most exposed to has been, you know, I feel like there is a lot of content right now for the web, and almost all of that content is comedy related. I don't see a lot of dramatic pieces being done, which is a disappointment to me because I grew up in the theater. You know, I want that richer environment, but I do love the comedy. You know, in New York and DC, there's a much more poetic, sort of lyrical, dramatic atmosphere.
Interesting.
There can be, at least in LA, it's harder to find that. I also think that in the smaller markets like DC and I'm sure Chicago, Atlanta, where film is being done, and there's a lot of indie film happening, that smaller teams can be more appropriate. In LA, I think that there are so many people that if you don't have a separate person for lighting, a separate person for sound, a gaffer, a DP, a director, and all the equipment that comes with that, then you can do whatever you want. You can make whatever you want, but there's a higher expectation for that because it's there somewhere.
Right.
It's available to you.
Right.
Even if it's hard to work in New York, in LA, and I'm sure New York, because things happen so slowly and there's a lot of procrastination, I think, in this industry in general. But the expectation to have a really sound team to set that professional standard is higher.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Because I know so many productions that have just been, you know, a cameraman and a producer and the actor, and you just go, especially around here. But that's really interesting. But it makes sense that in Los Angeles, there just is that oversaturation of people that you would expect that they have, you know, key lighting, key makeup, everything. Absolutely. That's interesting.
Did you find
Yeah, how about you?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, out here, back in DC, like, you're not going to find a lot of people to do stuff with. Like, I was lucky enough to have Jay, and then we had a couple other friends to, like, help us out. But once you go to LA, like, the pool of, like, people who know how to do things, like, opens up. But then you have to weed through that pool and find out, like, who's who's
really
down to do what you're doing, and
Yeah.
And
who's
for
like,
what price?
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
no one wants to work for
yeah.
free, and
Right.
I find that
Yeah.
if you even if you begin a project, even if you start with a really great team, there's such a drive and a desire
Yeah.
for constant momentum and a sense of achievement
Yeah.
that people easily drop out of projects
Yeah.
if they think that something even potentially more important to them will come along. So the indie community, I think, is struggling.
Yeah.
At certain, I mean, in LA, $1 million is still considered an indie. So, yeah, right. So, so they're not struggling as much as I think we're struggling at, you know, the 10,000
Right.
region of like we can pay everyone a little bit for the day, maybe.
Right.
Or
Right.
we can.
Yeah.
And we give
but-
you food and,
Right,
you know, have
but
the
it's
basic.
those opportunities people flake out on, even if the project is really beautiful and important, because the drive to get to that next level is so high.
Oh yeah.
Isn't
People
that
will flake
interesting?
out on you. I mean, it's also like very business minded too.
Oh, of
like,
course.
I'm still naive in that like I feel like if I make a good movie, people will see it eventually
Of
because it's
course.
good. But then like in LA, you know, you make a movie and then like you have people asking you like, well, how are you gonna market this and stuff like that, and it's like, dude, it's hard enough to make a good movie. Like, why am I worried about like making postcards?
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Now, it's interesting to hear about the different markets and everything, but do each of you have any projects that are coming up that are going to be in either the film festival circuit or things that are now in post that will be coming out or things that came out recently? Real quick.
Yeah, I can talk about CBGB,
Yeah.
which I was brought in on. It's got an amazing cast. It's about the punk rock club in New York and how it blossomed in the 70s and all its sort of punk glory. And it was a wonderful film to work on. I absolutely loved it. I remember getting the call, and they called me up and just offered me the part, which I was blown away. I was so excited. And I have always been a huge fan of the show Castle.
Yes.
And when they said to me, they were like, by the way, you know, you'll be opposite Stana Katic in your role. You're actually playing her best friend. I was jumping up and down. We were at like we were in Mystic, and I was on the shore, and my whole family's like in a boat sort of sailing across, and I'm like waving at them and yelling, oh, I got the part. You know,
That's amazing.
So that movie premiered beginning of October in LA and New York, and now it's out and about. I think it's also on demand, and I think playing internationally as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Jeff, how about you? Real quick.
oh, real quick. Let's see. I'm finishing up a short film that I shot over the summer. I'm still editing it. Hopefully it's good, and I'll send it to film festivals. And then
What's it called?
it's called Midday Crisis right
Okay.
now. And then I'm working on a cable TV show that's going to be on HBO next year.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Jay?
Nothing for myself personally, but I will have a special thanks credit on his work, I'm sure. Or at least I'm expecting it.
A producer.
There you go. All right. So thank you so much for coming and being willing to talk about your experiences and everything that you've done. It's an eye-opening conversation to hear, and I'm so glad each of you were able to come.
Yeah.
So this has been Lights, Camera, Action with Allison Howard, the special edition with Filmmakers, and see you next time.